So you've written and spoken about the impacts of dyslexia on a child's social and emotional development. We know what that can do. So what factors really impact the well-being of students with dyslexia, and how can a teacher help in that regard?
Now, being a mother
Mhm.
of a child, now grown child, with dyslexia, that question alone, Mary, brings a lot of reaction to
Yeah.
me, because anybody who experiences dyslexia or raises has someone with dyslexia in their family knows the trauma, and that is not too strong a word, the trauma that most of these children go through, even if their dyslexia, like my daughter, was relatively mild, moderate level.
Mhm.
The What we need to be aware of is the how easy it is to create a condition in classrooms where those children feel ashamed.
Mm.
They feel like something's wrong with them, that they look around. I mean, it doesn't take a whole level of sophistication. So this level of shame and disconnect with what's going on in the classroom really happens early. It happens around 5 and 6 years old. We hear these stories all the time from parents. It's so almost universal that their child, like all children, get very excited about going to school and learning, and often if they have older siblings, they see how they enjoyed it and they want to go to school, and it all starts to fall apart around kindergarten, when the instruction of even letters, the alphabet, letter names, and certainly letter sounds, which is their real difficulty, begins. And all the other kids seem to be getting this really easily, and they're even having fun doing it. And I just don't, no matter how hard I work. That's certainly, and we, that notion, that's also one of the myths of dyslexia, that these children really just need to try harder. It's not that complicated. If they just tried harder, they could get it. And they're, in most cases, trying extraordinarily hard. There's some very interesting research, I think, out of the University of Washington that did some brain scan research and concluded that children with dyslexia are using five times the cognitive effort to do the same kind of work that children without. So we need to cut these kids a little bit of slack, and know that their brains are working really hard on things that the vast majority of us find very easy to do, and acknowledge that
Mhm.
challenge, and point out to them along the way of why it's hard. That's one of the things that for my own daughter was really reassuring and started lowering her stress levels. What is that? This is not your fault. This is a part of your brain that just works differently than other brains. She was from early on very aware that her mother's brain finds things like reading and writing very easily, but there's another part of my brain, I have no idea where it is, but how two things fit together is my disability. And so it was easy for her to watch, and I think helpful for her to watch another family member who struggled greatly with certain things, where she struggled. The unfortunate thing is that when you struggle with learning to read and write, that affects so much of your life, at least once while you're in school. So the social emotional impact of dyslexia has been well documented. It is pretty universally part of the journey of our children with dyslexia. And it's something that educators should be very aware of, how to do their best to make these children not feel separate or different, or in any way ashamed of the fact that they have this particular difficulty to deal with.
Well, and to think of the value today of knowing the causes,
Yes.
and to be able to explain that to a young child, for them
Yes.
to understand why their brain functions a little bit differently and why they're struggling to connect symbols and sounds, I think is extremely valuable. When,
It is.
when we
Yes.
didn't know what the cause was, you know, um, I can imagine even more difficult for those students, you know.
Well, it certainly was for my daughter. Again, my personal experience is
Mhm.
so ingrained in me. But we were just talking about this recently. When you get out of school and all of that trauma is
Mhm.
behind you, it doesn't go away. It's still there. So there are opportunities at times for my daughter and I to talk about this. And we were recently talking about how when we came to that conclusion that that's what was going on, it had a name, it was called dyslexia, and we both, as we were talking about it, we went like this with our hands. It's like, ah. So she was about in fourth grade. I was significantly older, but
Yeah.
there was this sense of relief, of answer things being answered, puzzle pieces being put together. Like, yes, this just makes so much sense. Doesn't that knowledge doesn't make things easier going forward? The work still is the same, but it certainly feels more. It's a whole different emotional reaction
Yeah,
to.
no, I can see the value that just that knowledge and alone.
Yeah,
Just I
just that
can,
alone.
yeah,
Mhm.